I lead the financial services and a few other verticals for Google Cloud. We just felt that this topic is so relevant today. And when we speak about 1 billion Indians, as Mr. Bansal was saying, I think it's in the moment, right? It's just there. It's now. So this is exactly, and I didn't speak to him before we made this presentation. So just letting you know that this is actually genuine. We wrote this and then he's probably spoken. So we just want to speak about a few things, right? I mean, what are the systems? What are the ecosystems which you and me go through every day, which you and our families go through every day? So these are what we call as micro moments, right? These are moments, happening in the face. How is that lady planning and trying that shoe on, right? And it's just that instance of purchase. Do I get a Nike? Do I get an Adidas? The do it yourself, right? Your car is down, and who can quickly jump and get you the best response? Where is the customer 360 going to come and play a role in this? And that's a micro moment, right? If you address that customer's micro moment, you are in their journey forever. How do you look at what is the education I want to give my kid? Are the formal degrees based on credentials, and I don't want to go through that route? Or am I going to give my child competency-based skills, which means that they can be a programmer probably in class 8 rather than really having to go through the drudge of the board exams or whatever. Maybe in the future that's what it will be. But the fact of the matter is, these are the micro moments and the journeys which customers go through every day. And why am I saying this in a financial services forum? I think financial services sometimes also needs to know from other industries that there are examples out there of people having solved some of these, and therefore these micro moments are the ones which also extend across to people's financial decision making. And the embedded finance as being one of the topics out here, how do you embed yourself in those customer journeys? So here's some piece of data which, because we are Google, we tend to sort of go through some of these details, and this will sort of embellish further as to what Mr. Bansal was saying or what we are looking at. Umbrellas are a low consideration item is what we thought. A car or a high value item is a high consideration item. However, 150%, based on a study done in 2021, 150% increase in search for umbrellas or for shower curtains. And these are probably, low value items which are there. And look at the paradox of it all. You're spending half an hour searching for the best shower curtains, but you need instant delivery of your food in the next 10 minutes, or you call Zepto and get it delivered in the next 5 minutes. That's the paradox we are living in, right? So you are facing a micro moment, you are getting impatient about it, and you want delivery now. And so how do organizations embed themselves in all these journeys, right? But then that is not all. You're also wanting to see, and you want to test the boundaries of digital trust. So you're also asking the question, is Bitcoin safe? And that's up 274%. So financial services is going digital, and not the new age products, right? We are also talking of insurance, which online buying has increased by 63%. Obviously held by life insurance policy aggregators. But at the end of the day, if you look at BNPL, 273% increase in the amount of searches on BNPL. And that's happening at the moment, right? While the purchase is going on. Of course, how to pay electric bills, right? That also has gone up by 180%. All because it's been driven by the pandemic, the acceleration which has happened in the pandemic. But what I wanted to essentially say was, you're doing that for your financial transactions, you're doing it for your non-financial transactions as well. So you're also talking about staycations. So all of this has seen a huge jump in terms of what we are looking for in our own personal journeys. And that's where each of you as fintechs and as financial institutions have to build for. Each of what the organizations have been in legacy have to now look for the next billion customers. So the paradox I spoke about, right? You spend an hour looking for the best staycation, but you also have, seen a 708% increase in grocery delivery. You've also seen a 3x in restaurant open now. IPL match खत्म हो गया, घर पे खाना नहीं है, खाना है कहीं पे जाके, right? So you have to also go and find out how do you get to the restaurant now? The word is now. And instant delivery searches have increased by 4x as well. So it's part of the same research, maybe a little bit dated because it's 2021, and in 2 years it would have, like the UPI payments have blossomed to 8 billion. I'm sure that has also blossomed into some huge figure. But this is just indicative of the fact that, as Mr. Bansal put it, the consideration is no longer with the brand. The consideration is the customer. The customer decides the consideration. And so the customer will buy into a journey which satisfies their need, which satisfies their curiosity, and which satisfies their impatience. I think that's essentially what is coming out of some of these surveys, right? And how does it all play into the financial services domain? So all of us are bombarded, omni-channel. Every day we get 50 calls. And how do you decide which one to go for, which one not to go for, which one to ignore, which one to just shut off? And so again, slightly dated information, but the fact of the matter is, if you're placing digital trust in your mobile, then you need to have that trust also, validated, verified by something. And again, I'm not preaching Play Store out here, but something which you can go for with trust. Look at the number of financial apps which have grown, and this is 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, right? It's probably exploded much more than that. So 25% growth just in the number of downloads. I'm sure this is much, much more. But also look at the fact that the number of transactions which have happened, right? The hours spent has increased by 30% just in 1 year. And so it's the mobile which has become the primary element of peeking into a customer's journey. And therefore, that's essentially what is driving the next behavior, what is driving the next spend, and what is driving the next need for the customers in their journey. So we spoke about the uniqueness of each customer journey, right? And again, not to bring out any controversy out here, but if you look at this journey, right, example, and I'm just taking an example of something like a Jio Cinema, not a financial services app. They're not talking of monetization yet. Maybe they've done some whispers. They're doing acquisition right now. And therefore, when your initial core banking systems, LOS systems, LMS systems, whatever was there, they were built for resiliency. They were built for the reconciliation of the transaction. They were built for the compliance. But your new age applications are built for scale, because they have to cater to this unique journey of each and every customer. And that's exactly what Mr. Bansal also referred to, right? The adaptive choices or adaptive journey, I think is what you mentioned about. Adaptive journey. So the unique journey, the scale at which it has to be built, and each individual's trust which has to be gained has moved from the institution to the consumer. So if the consumer believes he can trust it, he or she can trust it, they will go ahead and do the transaction, right? Or they'll go ahead and acquire what they want. So it is no longer about the institution. Yes, the institution has a brand recall which has to be there, which adds to it. But then you have to cater to all three if you want to keep the customer, if you want to get a customer. So how do you sort of decode that opportunity? If you look at this, and just to again add to what Mr. Bansal mentioned, right? The opportunity is a 500 million, right? Out of a 1.5 billion, which is still 1/3 the total addressable market which we are looking for. Out of which, what has got penetrated? UPI, absolutely fabulous, 400 million. I'm sure it is more than that now. Every day, it's setting new records. But then when you look at the next layers, so you're talking of, BNPL lending, 150 million. So you have huge headroom in terms of growth. Insurance, I wouldn't say very underpenetrated, but definitely underpenetrated. In case you're talking of sachet insurance, you have a clear 120 million opportunity there as well. If you're talking of wealth management, right, as a field, wealth management is just about 60 million professionals out here, or 60 million individuals out here. So just look at the potential on the left-hand side. And if you look at, when I say traditional models, I'm talking about traditional digital models from enterprise, banks, and institutions. So the word digital is not mentioned there. But what they are catering to is just about half of it, which is 250 million. And we are still not even talking of the 1 billion, which Mr. Bansal referred to in terms of the reach. And so this is the problem we have, right? This is exactly the problem each of you are trying to solve as well. But that problem is not easy to solve. And why is it not easy to solve? Because of this situation. On the left-hand side, you have all the knowledge. You have all the products you set out to build. You have a great idea of the industry. On the right-hand side, you have the data, you have the technology, you have the speed. You know the business, but you do not have the regulatory management. You do not have the compliance in the way it is ironclad for those legacy institutions. And that's where the problem happens. And that's exactly where you need to come at an intersection of what we call as the relevance and the completeness of the offering sort of has to be merged between these two. And this is exactly, I think, a microcosm of the problem a lot of these organizations face today, right? If a bank, if a YONO 1.0, I hope is there anybody from SBI in the room? Just hypothetically saying, right? YONO was ahead of its time in those days, but YONO has 4-5 million customers. It's a scratch on what is the possibility. And today they'll have YONO 2.0 and 3.0 coming in. But if they believe that 5 million active users, so look at your metrics. What is a user? Anybody who's installed the app on the mobile maybe opens first as a user. Have you done a transaction? No. Or yes, probably. But 4 million users. In a country of 1.5 billion, in a country where SBI is the biggest bank. Now, I'm not blaming the bank. I'm just saying that was how it started. They were the first. So we have to give them the credit for innovating despite being such a large bank. But then has the experience for the user been in the moment, now embedded themselves in the customer journey? Probably not yet. And therein lies the opportunity for all of us. Therein lies the opportunity for the bank, and therein lies the opportunity for the consumers as well. So the world all of you live in is essentially, just 1 second, I think. Oops. No, I think there's some problem. The moment you convert a Google slide into a Microsoft one, I think this is what happens. So essentially, what happens is that the financial services platform has to cater to 3 things, right? One is, of course, the partnerships. When we say partnerships, the consumers out there, now ideally they should be in the middle, but because we are putting the platform in the middle, you have the ecosystem out here. And I'm really sorry I'm not able to show that. I don't know whether the organizers can actually show the previous slide out here. Because otherwise we lose the essence of the message out here. Okay, so, in the interest of time, we'll go ahead. So, essentially, when you look at operations, right, you're talking about, okay, what is the tech which is going to be there? It is going to be a SaaS model. Is it going to be a multi-tenanted SaaS? Is it going to be a single-tenanted SaaS? Who's the cloud provider? Do we need a secondary cloud provider for resilience? So, there's a whole lot of questions around the operational side of things which is there. There's risk out there which is hidden. Here in this slide, actually, there's risk which is there. There is a business risk and there's an IT risk which is there. And then you have a whole set of processes at the back end, right, which is all there. Which all of that goes to make up your platform, goes to make up that, fintech platform which is there. And then you have the compliance pieces, the industry compliances, the regulators, all of that all comes in between. Now, I wish I could show the original slide because that would have given you the depth of the overall ecosystem, the depth of the overall challenge which we all need to solve for the next few years. So, if I were to break down our own company's mission statement, API apification probably is the best way to make everything universally accessible. Data is where we do the best, and therefore we can organize the data for you. As far as AI is concerned, I think Mr. Bansal clearly mentioned that is an AI used for internal process improvement, or is it used for something for the benefit of the customer? And I think that is where generative AI is slowly getting to, and we'll soon be seeing customer models pivot towards new offerings from a generative AI perspective. So I'm not trashing programmers out here, but what we believe is that 20% of the most important things in the tech is around API, is around data, is around AI, and it's around containers. It's the way how you organize around this four, which will indicate the completeness of your stack, the excellence of your stack, and how you'll actually go ahead. So if you're looking to start, build, grow, mature, we have all of the offerings right from the first stage, right from the start stage. So you can start with workspaces. I know a lot of you do workspaces. We have a whole range of offerings, are from Google for your early stage. If you choose to be open source all the while, and then if you want to mature, we have a startup academy which will help you get to the maturity stage, the growth stage. And then you can build a lot on Google Cloud. You can have all your APIs done with products like Apigee from our side. So we can embed ourselves. And so if you're probably looking for a loan from one of these banks while I'm speaking, I'm presuming that runs on Google Cloud as of now as well. So whether you're looking at modernization from an infrastructure layer below, or you're looking at an app modernization or writing new apps, we can reduce the time spent on getting your front ends ready from not months, not weeks, not days, probably a couple of days. We have offerings from our ISVs. We have offerings on marketing analytics, like Resultix is a great ISV for us. We have offerings from a front-end development platform like Flutterflow, because Flutter is based, from open source from our side. So if you can look at some of that, we bring the cross PA Google. We bring all of the excellence of Google Maps, Google Search, YouTube, Google Cloud, Google Ads, all of that together for our customers to get you to address the customer journey, customer's curiosity, and customer's impatience now. That's essentially what we believe we have set out to do, and we'll be happy to help you get there. Again, another slide which had its origins in the previous slide of this. Unfortunately, we are unable to show this. But what's important is you will have to abstract your operations, and as Mr. Bansal mentioned, straight through processing. Your processes cannot have human intervention if you have to address that 30-second loan or a 5-minute transaction. You will have to have a straight through processing. You will have to abstract your business capabilities and automate them to the extent possible through APIs, but also monetize them. So APIs are not just for the technology performance or the technology integration, but also for the monetization and with the right security. And then, of course, the aspect of security is probably more important and more ubiquitous than ever before. I truly believe I could have done better with the previous slide, but unfortunately, since it's not there, the message sort of gets lost in the deck. But this is essentially what, as organizations requiring to build platforms, need to be taken care of, and we can help you along the way. Why can we help you along? I know my time's up. So the last slide and the last line. We have over 14 products which cater to 1 billion users. And so we know how it is to build at scale. We know how it is to build it securely. And we know how it is to address each individual consumer in a very hyper-personalized manner. Because we come with that knowledge, because we come with that expertise, or because we come with that intelligence and the learnings, we would be able to help you along that journey. So count on us to help you get to that personalized journey of that consumer and to the next billion consumers. Thank you. If you can, that will be great. Okay. Yeah, so I think this sort of explains, as I mentioned, right, the tech, you're looking at the entire process piece of it, you're looking at the regulatory and the industry standards piece of it, and you're looking at customers, partners, and your investors. So this sort of is a mind map of what the platform essentially needs to cater to if it has to meet the existing world of regulated industries and the new world of innovation. So that's essentially what it is. This is not too clear for us when we just showed those big blobs out there.
So what challenges you foresee for the hyper-personalization?
What challenges we foresee?
To implement the hyper-personalization.
See, the first thing is consumers are racing ahead, right? They are not held back by any regulation themselves, right? It's the institutions which are held back by regulations. So the consumers are racing ahead. The problem of the institutions is what is PII and how do we treat it? And so if I send an email about myself with all my details to somebody, does that constitute a breach of PII or is it okay? Right. So those are very vague areas, right, in terms of how do you define, I mean, yes, there is a definition for PII, but when it happens through such exchanges, you want to do that personalization, right? So do you end up masking that data, then doing the process and then coming back, by which time you might have lost the customer. So in order to do it at scale, you also need to automate it to the extent that, okay, I can mask it in a fraction of a microsecond. And that's where the architecture, right, like microservices, which can then get that particular API linked to the offering of the customer, is very important. So first and foremost, the monolithic business applications, getting them to really service this hyper-personalization is going to be the issue, which is what, most institutions face a problem. The moment you break it into a microservices model, you are able to then offer that services as an API to that specific customer because he or she wanted it. So I think that's the first process and the app layer piece which you need to work upon. That in my opinion, would be the biggest beneficiary if you were to really get to hyper-personalization at a very high level. The second piece, of course, is the quality of data. Data can always be taken whichever way you want, right? I mean, if the data is not clean, hyper-personalization just goes out for a toss. Whereas if your data is clean, and that's where probably some of the AI models also, not falter but struggle, right? Because the AI model learns from the data it sees or data it processes. If that data is not great, then the resulting inferences which it will provide will be very difficult to, really target and get your customer. Whereas if the AI model, if it's on clean data, then probably the inferences which it will provide will probably get you a better conversion ratio of your targeted customer set. So I would probably presume these 2 or 3 would be the biggest challenges to hyper-personalization.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.